All right.
I keep losing connection to the server.
Oh, really? And I look it up.
I guess so.
And it's one of those where nobody will take responsibility. Oh, it's your provider. Oh, it's your router. Oh, it's your phone.
I will say we had that problem with an old router, and they said you need a new router. We got a new router, and it turns out it was actually the switch from that company. It wasn't us.
Good evening. I call this Iowa City Community School Board meeting on Tuesday, September 11th, 2018 to order. My name is Janet Godwin, and I want to thank those in the audience, those watching on television, YouTube, and those following on Twitter for joining us tonight. I'll start by introducing those at the table with me. To my right, Superintendent Steve Murley, Directors Ruthina Malone, Phil Hemingway, Lori Rotland, J.P. Clausen, Sean Eystone, Paul Ressler, and Kim Colvin, Recording Secretary. The public is reminded that if they wish to speak, they need to complete a speaker form found at the table in the lobby and turn it in. During community comment, persons may speak to the board about topics relevant to the district. All community comment directed at non-agenda items and agenda items shall take place at the beginning of the meeting during the community comment section of the agenda. With that, we will move into our agenda, and first up we have student representatives from City High, Lottie Goodall and Naomi Maurice. Come on up. Yeah, come on up. Welcome, welcome.
Hello, my name is Lottie Goodell.
And I'm Naomi Maurice.
Thank you for taking the time to hear from us about what's happening at City High.
It's been a great start to our school year, and I'm always super proud of like the positivity that's projected among, from seniors all the way down to freshmen. The tone has been set early on for inclusivity, hard work, kindness, and high achievement.
Speaking of which, just to give you guys a rundown of some good news from City, our drama department was selected as by the Iowa Thespian Society to perform a play at their annual conference, which is a pretty big deal for them. City has always been a place where students get involved, and this year we saw a record number of people go out for Best Buddies. They have 145 members.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. And this past Sunday at the Hills Bank Youth Salute Awards, I think City had the largest number of students nominated.
As for planning, in Student Senate, we're keeping busy organizing the homecoming dance, parade, as well as Powder Puff football games.
Our athletics are off to a great start. There's an enormous amount of student section support that they receive. It's really fun to see everyone come out and support the volleyball and the football teams. The cross-country programs are continuing their tradition of success. The girls having just come off fourth place finish against 32 teams from around the Midwest on Saturday.
If there is one thing we want to leave you with tonight, is our desperate need for sustainable recycling program at City. Over the course of last year, Lottie and I and two other students implemented a plastic recycling a system across the school. There are now bins in every single classroom, and thanks to the special ed department, it is picked up every week by them.
But when it came to the lunchroom, the majority of last year, myself and student volunteers would collect the bottles after lunch, and we would clean and sort them before taking them to the recycling center. Before doing this, 10 of those huge black gallon trash bags were being thrown away to the landfill every single day. But as our need for a place to store the plastic, coupled with the necessity of attending our classes, this way of doing things became unsustainable. City High needs a dumpster to store plastic. We need funding for outdoor and hallway recycling bins. We need district support to make this happen.
There have been many attempts in the past to make our school more sustainable, but without the fundamental changes from the ICCSD, people graduate, the fundraiser money runs out, and plastic and glass gets thrown away. And we've got to do better. I believe this is something we can all agree on, and I think that if we put actual emphasis on managing our waste properly, it can really be done. This is not just a City High problem, it's a district-wide issue that needs to be addressed. And we haven't even talked about composting. That's a whole other thing, but Regina does it. They do it sustainably, they do it very well. The University of Iowa does it, Kirkwood does it, so I think that we really must do it. And we urge you guys to help us out with that. district-wide.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so
guys.
much.
Quick question, so you're washing the bottles out, wow, that's amazing. And you said you had glass, now what are the glass bottles from?
A lot of people bring things to school from like breakfast, or they bought things on the way, or they leave during a period to go to
Okay.
lunch, they come back, and there's definitely a lot of cans and plastic there.
Okay, and with the plastic bottles, do you crush those, or are they just,
What we do, so we would take them from the classrooms, or I know like last football game, I came home with 2 giant buckets full of plastic, and we dump them, and then we just take them to the recycling center down at Scott Boulevard, I think.
we have, at the Hy-Vee warehouse on Dodge, they have,
That one is a little bit harder to dump things at
Is it?
because
Okay.
It's a very small hole, and as we learned the hard way, you have to pick them up one at a time and dump them.
And it also doesn't accept plastic water bottles. Actually, water bottles do not get you any money. You get like 5 cents for any plastic soda bottles, but they will not accept water bottles. Plastic.
oh, well, thank you.
Thank you all so
for your
much.
efforts.
Yeah, thank you.
Next up from West High, I'm apologizing for not getting the name correct, Paras Basuk? Hello.
Good afternoon. My name is Paras Basuk, and I am the school board representative of the Student Council at West High School. These first few weeks of school at West High have been packed full of events and successes to kick off the school year. Among the notable things in the past weeks and weeks leading up to the start of the school year have been the Summer Showcase. This was a musical and theatrical performance involving over 60 students over the summer. We also had the annual club fair, which was an opportunity for over 30 clubs at West, including Science Olympiad, Student Senate, and Best Buddies, and many, many more clubs to promote themselves and to recruit new members. In addition, our fall athletic programs have been off to a great start, and most recently the football team beat South Polk on Friday. The West High Library has formed a diversity-focused book club that will be welcoming the acclaimed author of Dear Martin as the club's first guest. This year, homecoming will take place in our new gym at West High. With a lower entrance fee and more space, the Student Senate is planning a fun, more accessible event. On Tuesday, August 28th, the students at West High were shown a video about safety and security in schools made by the Sandy Hook Promise Foundation. This video was very poignant and moving, and I think touched many of the students. In more uplifting news, many of West High's musicians will be volunteering at the Music Auxiliary Car Wash on September 29th. In addition, the music departments of band, orchestra, and choir at West are currently in the process of local all-state music auditions for the prestigious competition in October. West High is proud to have 21 National Merit semifinalists this year, as well as 75 honored senior leaders that were recognized at the Hills Bank Youth Salute Awards ceremony. In the next week or so, students will also begin signing up for the PSAT and PSEO courses. Theater West has cast its participants in the fall play Miracle on 34th Street in the past week. And West High School's newspaper, The West Side Story, has been named a newspaper pacemaker finalist by the NSPA. This is a highly competitive award that hundreds of publications are applicable for, and it is an outstanding accomplishment for West High. The last thing that I would like to mention is regarding the changes that have been made to West over the summer. Our bright new cafeteria, gym, and weight room are receiving lots of use from the student body and are a welcome improvement. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much.
I was just going to ask you before you mentioned that how the cafeteria was going and if you've noticed a nice change from last year,
Yes,
years
it's-
past.
It's beautiful, nice space. The atmosphere is very nice.
Is the food new?
I'm not sure.
No trick questions. Thank you so much for coming tonight. From Liberty High, Kate Randall and Ryan Eystone.
Hi, I'm Kate Randall, and I'm a junior at Liberty High.
I'm Ryan Iso, and I'm a sophomore at Liberty High.
We really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys today. We all had high expectations going into Liberty for its second year, and we are really proud to say that our expectations have been surpassed.
So to start off the year, Liberty's National Honor Society chapter spent the whole summer planning an interactive freshman orientation that included team building activities and a mock schedule. It was a huge success, and we got amazing feedback from the freshmen and their families about how helpful the orientation was.
We also recently just had our first home football game, which took place on our brand new stadium, and it welcomed over 3,500 people. We are proud to say that both the sophomore and varsity teams won against Waterloo East, and the student section was incredible. Our sophomore game was especially exciting as they went to a thrilling overtime that ended in a victory.
Best Buddies, a club that helps provide one-to-one friendships to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, is also working on expanding our chapter. During the club fair, Best Buddies had over 110 people sign up to be an active member of the club.
Liberty has also replaced the previous academic focus time with Liberty Time this year, and has been very helpful for both underclassmen and upperclassmen. Liberty Time occurs on Tuesday and Wednesday after 7th period, and it's a 50-minute time slot where students can work on homework and study. Since it's the same amount of time as a class period, it's shown very helpful for students.
Thank you for including Liberty on our agenda tonight, and we look forward to giving you more updates.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I think that's it, unless there's someone from Tate High here. If not, we'll move on to the ICEA update with Brady Shutt.
Thanks. President Godwin, Vice President Rowland, Directors, and Superintendent Murley. It's really great to be here tonight. I hope we have a room that's full of, and we'll be filling up with amazing teachers and paraeducators from our district to say thank you for your belief in us and the work that we do every day to help our students grow and learn. The educators here in Iowa City are the best of the best. They really are. It's a privilege to work with them. It's an honor to see how good they are, and they are really, really good. And with all sincerity, it is the greatest honor of my professional career to be able to stand here as their advocate and representative. So we have a contract amendment for the teachers and the paras on the agenda tonight. And I just want, for the record, I think it needs to be noted that tonight's consideration and vote on the contract amendment is not the first strong affirmation and confirmation by the board in Iowa City of their support for public schools and educators. In February of 2017, we had a marathon negotiating session. It was like a one-night race against the clock all the way to midnight, truly, literally. And it was just days before the Iowa legislature gutted collective bargaining rights found in Chapter 20 of the Iowa Code. Our board at the time voted unanimously to approve contracts for all their employee groups, and they did not have to, and they did. And the next night, they came back for their board meeting and unanimously voted to issue a public statement urging the legislature to maintain collective bargaining rights found under Chapter 20. Some of you were on that board, and we really appreciate that. This fall, this board, all of you, moved unanimously during a work session to put the restoration of Chapter 20, collective bargaining rights under Chapter 20, as one of your legislative priorities. I don't know this, and Steve, if I'm wrong about this, don't tell me, because I'm having a good moment here, but I would bet money that no other board in the state of Iowa did that. And that's a very, very strong statement from you about what happens in our schools. So, of course, tonight we're here to specifically say thank you for the consideration of the contract amendments to the teacher and the para-educator contracts. And I'd like to share part of what I wrote to my colleagues about tonight's contract amendments. So I'm quoting myself here for the first time. The proposed contract amendments are a direct result of the strength of the partnership between ICEA and ICCSD, the amazing work that educators in the district do every day, the power of having over 700 teachers in ICEA, and the leadership of our district, our school board, Superintendent Murley, Board President Janet Godwin. ICEA and ICCSD leaders want the Iowa City Schools to be a model for how the state develops and maintains a strong partnership that focuses on what we all love to do: teach our students, collaborate with our colleagues, teacher leadership, coaches, and other teacher leaders, and connect with families in our community. These amendments are a clear and strong statement that the work all of you do is valued. To President Godwin, Vice President Rowland, Directors Waschler, Eystone, Clausen, Hemingway, Malone, Superintendent Murley, Matt Amy, and Jane. These are all the people that I work with every day. When this came down the road, I called up Steve and said, Steve, there's something that's going on out there that we might be able to do, and had a meeting the next day, and we sat down one-on-one for an afternoon and really worked it out, and I think that's a huge statement about the partnership we have. So on behalf of the ICEA Executive Board and the Building Rep Council members and teachers who are here, our sincere thank you for your consideration, and hopefully your vote of yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Brady. Moving to community comment, we have one citizen, Eric Johnson. You're it?
I just want to say that I want to thank the board for the recent interest and work on attendance area zones and equity. Whenever this topic comes up, I expect to hear some chatter in town about neighborhood cohesion and how these efforts might affect it. And I wanted to address this a little bit specifically in regard to the board's discussion of pairing Twain and Longfellow schools. I live in the Twain neighborhood, or as the Neighborhood Association calls it, the Lucas Farms neighborhood. As you know, we're just south of the Longfellow neighborhood. These two neighborhoods have some things in common and some distinct differences. Both neighborhoods have lots of Moffett houses, which are historical and unique to Iowa City and charming until you start trying to work on them. And both neighborhoods contain schools and have a high number of parent residents, and both neighborhoods engender strong bonds of affection from their residents. There are, of course, differences. Longfellow is closer to downtown and has a neat front porch music festival, and has long been kind of a destination neighborhood for some Iowa Cityans. Twain is more ethnically and culturally diverse and is, for lack of a better word, a little funkier than Longfellow. We're more of a well-kept secret than a destination neighborhood, though I'm messing that all up by talking to y'all here. It's no secret that there are also economic differences between the two neighborhoods. And I think this is good up to a point. You can get more house and more yard for less money in the Twain area, and we have more rental properties. This makes it a great place for working class parents and for anyone looking for a starter home. But it's not good that the differing economic profiles are expressed in the schools, with Twain hosting 60% more students who qualify for free and reduced lunch than Longfellow. This means that in these two schools, less than a mile apart, children learn in different conditions and teaching takes place in very different conditions. In light of these differences, it's worth asking what a neighborhood is. There's no strict geographic designation. A neighborhood is an area of interest, and whatever disparate interests the two neighborhoods have, we have a common interest in our children receiving equal educational opportunities amid a diverse student body. More so than any two schools in the district, Twain and Longfellow make sense as a pair because of the extreme demographic differences and because of how close the two buildings are, less than a mile apart. Meaning that transportation from one side of Twain's current zone to Longfellow is less onerous than it might be in two larger districts combined, where the schools are close or farther apart. So for these reasons, I'd just like to ask you all to continue looking into this idea. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. Okay, that closes the community comment portion. Moving into agenda approval, is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved. Second.
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Consent agenda. Phil, do you have an update on the bills this evening?
Yes. The district spent $6.6 million with $3.5 million coming, or 3.35 coming out of the GO bond. And of note in this one, we had watermelons and cantaloupes from Letts, squash and cucumbers from Kelowna, apples from Solon, and tomatoes from Iowa City. So the new cafeteria at West High, we're having some locally grown produce that's going in there, and It's stimulating the local economy, and it's good fresh food, and the district should be commended for their efforts to do that.
Thank you, Phil. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I would like to pull Appendix 9, Item 10.
I move that we approve the appendix, or the consent agenda minus item 9.
No, item 10.
Actually, appendix 9, item 10.
Right, yes, it's confusing.
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Appendix 9, item 10.
And it was the lockers at Liberty, Dwayne. We had 4 vendors. We went with it appears we went with the second highest vendor. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's not what this item is for, though. It's not awarding the contract. It's accepting the final product is what this is for. But we did have several vendors bid the lockers 2 years ago, whatever that was. Is that, you want to go back to that? I'd have to look it up, but
Okay.
yeah,
No, it was in Appendix 9, Liberty lockers.
yeah. No, I'm happy to answer your question. It's just that's not what was on the agenda.
Okay.
What's on the agenda is, just so everybody understands, is the approval or the acceptance of the final project. I'll find the lockers and answer your question. Okay, corridor lockers. We had 4 bids. I don't have that bid tab in front of me. There was bids from Iowa Prison Industries, a bid from Iowa Direct. There was another athletic supplier. There were several of them. And there was 2 parts of that. One was for the student lockers and one was for the locker room. So beyond that, what's your question, I guess?
Well, I was just bringing up the fact that we went with the 3rd highest bid, and it was substantially
Yeah,
higher.
well, we did a really careful review of the specs too. There were some different sheet metal gauges that were spec'd in suppliers of that. So we went back and looked at the hardware and the specifications on the metal and picked the one we felt was the best value.
Very good.
Move that we approve appendix 9.
Second?
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Now to the annual meeting portion of the agenda. First up is the board meeting calendar. Is there a motion to approve the 2018-19 board meeting calendar? So moved.
Second.
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Next up is the approval of our school council, or corporation council, excuse me. Is there a motion to approve?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions or concerns with this one. And one has to do just with the way we receive our bills. And when you go through and you look at them, there can be multiple entries and just a total at the bottom, and there's no itemization on the bills. In this one, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things we're billed out at, but in a total at the bottom. I think I've got one in here that there's 11 entries. And I would like to make sure that if we could request to have greater specificity on the itemization of the invoices, I think it would help us to make sure that there's no mathematical errors or anything that way, and that we're getting good value for the service we're seeking.
I move that we approve the fiscal year 2019 engagement letter for legal counsel.
Second.
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. and the motion carries with Directors Rotland, Ressler, Godwin, Clausen, Malone, and Eystone voting yea, and Director Hemingway voting nay.
Thank you. Next up is the written policies, guidelines, rules, regulations, and procedures. Is there a motion to approve these?
I move that we adopt all written policies, guidelines, rules, regulations, and procedures.
Second.
Ready for a vote?
Yes, ready for a vote. Yes, sorry.
Online voting is open.
It's the jet lag.
All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Next up, adoption of all written student, staff, and district handbooks.
I move to approve the written student, staff, and district handbooks.
Second.
Ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Next up, annual district calendars approval for years 2019-20, 2020-21, and 21-22.
Before we vote on that, I think Superintendent Murley had promised an update
Yes.
regarding religious holidays.
Yes, so I have meetings set up with the imam from the mosque, a rabbi from our local synagogue, and a local priest, so that I can get some feedback from them on how best to reflect religious holidays on the calendar. There are several high holidays going on right now, so those meetings will start next week. One of the things I shared with them is that we do our calendars on a rolling 3-year basis. That gives us the opportunity, if need be, to make adjustments in subsequent years and bring those back to the board for further action. So I'm looking forward to meeting with them, and we'll provide you an update after I've had the opportunity to speak with all three of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I move to approve the 2019, 2020, 2020, 2021, 21, 22 district calendars.
Second. Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Next up, the PE waiver approval.
I move to approve the physical education waiver request for the 2019-2020 school year.
Well, I've got a couple comments on it before.
Can we get a second
Sure,
first?
second. I'll
For
second.
discussion?
Yeah. And it's not me, but it was a English teacher that brought this to my attention, that when you, at the bottom, the first bullet point, every day should be every day used as an adjective, as one word. Like I say, it's not me. It was an English teacher, so it happens all the time. Again, with us building these athletic facilities and with daily exercise being the norm for many people, not myself included, but I really think we're missing an opportunity by not having physical education on a trimester basis, and if we're not testing our students from year to year, I don't know that we're getting any measurable results that way. And of course, it's easier to manage when you don't have students in a class on the second bullet point. But I feel that we should really explore the opportunities of having daily physical education for our students in high school. And with the waiver and a full schedule and things like that, students can can get out of it. So that's my bit on that.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote, Kim.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Next up is the Appoint District Multicultural Gender Fair Designee.
I move
Go ahead.
to appoint Laura Cottrell as the district MCGF designee.
Second. Ready to vote, Kim?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Next up, Level 1, Level 2 investigators approval.
Move to approve the level 1 and level 2 investigators as presented.
Second.
Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. The IASB Delegate Assembly Representative approval, we need to decide as a board who we'd like to have be that representative. I mean, one easy way of doing it is to figure out who's going to the convention, and then of who's going, we can decide who has availability that Wednesday morning to participate from the Iowa City School District in that meeting.
I'm going.
Yeah. You wanna-
I'm going
I don't
well.
care.
I'm going as well, but if you want to do it, it sounded like you were.
Sure.
You want to do Ruthina?
I thought we were saying who we're going, but yes, I would love to do it.
I'll nominate Ruthina Malone. Nominate Ruthina Malone as our IASB Assembly Delegate Assembly Representative.
Second.
Okay, Kim, ready to vote?
I'll go back now.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you, Ruthina. School Improvement Advisory Committee membership approval.
I move to approve the School Improvement Advisory Committee for 2018-19 as presented in the packet.
Second.
Kim, ready to vote? Oh, go ahead,
Comments,
please.
sorry.
Please.
As I mentioned at the work session last time, that this would be something that I would be interested in discussing. So before I vote on this, Steve, I know we have to have something like this legally, but what it is, do we have to have that now? What we want this committee to be?
No, and I know that Paul and I have had some dialogue about what some other districts are doing out there and how they've expanded the scope. I think you'll remember that we just had a presentation from our Equity Advisory Committee with some things that they see as warranting attention and needing some action. And our conversation was, would that be something that might be within the scope of an expanded SIAC committee? And the answer to that is yes. So I think there is opportunity for us to look at both expanding the number of people that are on there and expanding the scope of the work that they do. And that would definitely be consistent with this process here.
I had reached out to both Cedar Rapids and Des Moines and received correspondence back from their school board or their superintendent as to what their committees are, and I have that now, so I would love to have that discussion about what they're doing as opposed to what we're doing, so that we can improve that group so that it truly is a school improvement advisory committee that's working for us.
Okay, but we vote tonight, and that does not preclude any of those scope or membership changes. Okay, good. Thank you for that. So Kim, I think we're ready to vote now.
I don't think we have a motion or a second, do we? Who was it? How did I miss that?
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
Lori moved.
Who was the second?
One of these people seconded
I
it.
think I did.
And it was Ruthina.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. C-Dac approval, membership approval.
Move to approve the Community Education District-wide Advisory Council membership as presented in the packet.
Second.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wonder if some of these openings on here, I mean, do we have an idea if they'll be filled or who that might be?
Susie's in the process of working on that right now, and she knew that she was kind of under the gun to get this in here before the meeting, but at the same time, she wanted to make sure that she was recruiting appropriate people to fill these slots, given the context that they each have to fill one of these roles, and so she's still in process right now.
So is she okay then?
Yes.
I mean, are we giving her permission to fill
Yes, we
those
are.
kind of as they come up?
Following the guidelines that are in here and the positions that they need vacancies completed for.
I can add to that. The C-Dac committee met on Friday, and we have 3 applicants currently, and we'll be doing a recommendation for the first board meeting in October for the 3 open seats.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, did you have a question?
Same question I was
Okay.
going to ask.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I think we're ready to vote. Kim?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. And final, last item here is the approval of the C-Dac budget.
Move that we approve the C-Dac budget.
Second.
Any discussion? Kim, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast, and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Next up is organizational meeting items. First up is the election of board officers. Mr. Hansel, I think you'll lead us through this.
I'll handle this portion of the meeting. Thank you. As appointed Secretary of the Board of Education, I will assume the temporary chair of the board for this annual organizational portion of the meeting. Please remember, nominations are not motions, so no second is required for a director to be nominated. If you are nominated to an office, please verbally respond if you are willing to accept that nomination. It would be appropriate at the time a director makes a nomination and it is verbally accepted that a director who makes the nomination to provide affirmative comments on why the nomination is being made. It is also not required. It would be inappropriate for other directors or the board as a whole to discuss or debate the merits of the directors who have been placed in nomination. This is what the vote is for. The floor is now open for nominations for the board, for the office of Board of Education President.
I nominate Janet Godwin.
I accept the nomination.
I'll nominate Lori Rowland.
I'm honored. Phil, thank you. I'm going to decline that.
Do we have any other nominations?
That will be no.
The floor is now closed for nominations. We have in nomination Janet Godwin. And typically what happens in these cases, we can go ahead and vote, or the board can cast a unanimous voice ballot. I would suggest we go ahead with the vote process as we normally do. So Kim will distribute a yellow ballot. Please write in the name of the individual you're casting your vote for the office of Board of Education President. Okay, we have tally 7 votes, and Janet Godwin received 7 votes for the office of president and has been duly elected to this office. We'll now administer the oath upon you for this office. If you'll stand with me, please. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of school board president in the Iowa City Community School District, Iowa City, Iowa, as now or hereafter required by law?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
We'll now vote on the office of vice president. The floor is now open to receive nominations for the office of Board of Education Vice President.
I nominate Paul Rustler.
Accept.
I nominate Lori Rotland.
I accept.
Can we speak to our nominations once they're accepted?
Are there any other nominations?
Oh, sorry.
All right, the floor is now closed for nominations. We have in nomination Paul Ressler and Lori Rotland. Kim will distribute a ballot for you to complete. Please write in the name of the individual who you are casting your vote for the office of Board of Education Vice President.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'd like to speak to my nomination if it's allowed.
Sure.
Because, I want to put that out there. I think we have a great board, and I've really appreciated the leadership over the past year, and so for that reason of continuity, I'm nominating Lori. I think it provides a little bit of geographic balance. I mean, I know we represent, all of us are really looking out for the whole district, but I like the fact that there's a little bit of geographic balance between where the two candidates are from, and this is just purely a personal thing. I want to see as many women in leadership as possible, and so for those reasons, I'm nominating and voting for Lori Rowland.
Thank you. You can. Okay, I've tallied the 7 votes. There's 4 votes for Paul Ressler and 3 votes for Lori Rotland. So Paul Ressler is the duly elected member for the office of Board of Education Vice President. We'll now administer the oath of office. Upon the Vice President, to the Vice President of the Board, do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the School Board Vice President in the Iowa City Community School District, Iowa City, Iowa, as now or hereafter required by law?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. You can just stay.
The new officers will now assume their elected duties.
Okay, thank you. We'll wrap up, I think. We've got the most important thing that we're doing tonight, though everything's been fantastic with our annual meeting and comments, et cetera, but this is what I've been really looking forward to in the 2 action items that Brady was speaking about earlier. The first is the collective bargaining amendment for ICEA teachers. I'm very, very proud to be a member of a board in a district that has such strong partnerships with our teachers union and our teachers. I can say there's no greater asset in our community than the teachers who work with our students day in, day out, and change their lives every day. And so this extension, this amendment to extend the contract, I think is a sign of our collective confidence and support. And we want teachers to be able to focus on the primary chore at hand, which is working with our students and not worrying about recertifying and contracts, et cetera. So Very, very, very proud again to be part of a district that honors our teachers in such a strong way and partners so actively. And thank you, Brady, for your comments earlier. So is there a motion to approve the contract amendment for certified staff, teachers?
So moved.
Second.
Any further comments? Kim, I think we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
The next amendment. I would make all of the same remarks for our paraprofessionals who are in the classrooms every day working with teachers and with students, and this is another sign of our strong, strong district support for those educators who make a difference every day in our students' lives. And so, again, very proud to be part of this process, and I would entertain a motion to approve the contract amendment for para-educators.
So moved.
Second.
Further comments? Kim, we're ready to vote.
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Really, really awesome, really great moment. Next up, Director Liaison Report. Any comments or things people would like to highlight?
I have to apologize, fellow directors, that I did not include mine. So Kim, I will get that to you later. I very much apologize. I will say I've really been enjoying the meetings that we've had with the community. Sean and I had a great meeting with the Rotary last week. Felt a lot of support there. JP and I had a great meeting in the Broadway neighborhood, and I appreciate our process that we're using for this, and I'm getting good feedback from the community regarding our process.
Yeah, I'll make a comment to that too, and I didn't include from Saturday. Phil and I actually met out at Coral Ridge Mall with a number of folks, and a lot of good feedback. Only 90 minutes over our time, that's okay. We were there to answer questions, but people were engaged that whole time and really interested. And I think that was a smaller group, kind of like at the neighborhood center, a little bigger than that, but gave us an opportunity for some real dialogue, and people could really ask questions and dig in and kind of understand what we're doing. And I will say at Coral Ridge Mall, there were definitely people coming from some different angles and some different parts of the district with some really different opinions that were very passionate, but at the end we had a really great dialogue within that, and I also heard great feedback on the Rotary as well. So I like the way we're doing this. I think it's been really refreshing to get out in the community and have not just like we're giving you this information, but a real back and forth and conversations around kind of the why. And giving people, this has been my experience. I guess my assumption was because of the bond and campaigning, you know, all the people I thought I was talking to are kind of informed on school district issues and have an idea. But every single meeting I've been to, more than one person has been really sort of educated about what our district really looks like. I think that I've heard that again and again, like, oh, wow, I had no idea things were like that, or this school was that way. So I think that's helpful for our community to start to, instead of just see their kid in their school in their bubble, to look at this district as the Big C community. And so that's been really, frankly, inspiring to me in this process.
I just want to touch on a couple of ones that I went to. JP and I and Steve were all at the West High Open House before school started to take a look at the new cafeteria and the gym space, the dance space, the kitchen. And it's all looking great over there. Sunday, a lot of us were at Longfellow ribbon cutting ceremony, which was a great ceremony. It was well done. I appreciate the teachers staying there for that amount of time in their classrooms. I was able to get into some of those classrooms and talk with a couple of them. Showed some community members around that school. They were all impressed, even members of the community that aren't Longfellow families, some past students that had went there. It was very exciting. Special shout out to whoever decided to donate the buddy bench to Chris Pizarnik. I thought that was a great touch. that you guys had there. And then finally, the back-to-school night at City High, I went as a parent mainly, as a board member sort of. But it was the first time that I had been back to school at a school that I went to about 25 years ago. So that was fun, and I just wanted to say I appreciate all the teachers that spent the extra 49 total minutes, 7 minutes a period in those classrooms after they had been there all day already to welcome the mainly freshman parents back to school. And a special shout out to my daughter being in Foods 1 because we got cookies. So that was, but no, I really appreciate the teachers that were able to be there and at Longfellow in times when they weren't required to be there. It was great.
I don't have it on here because I wasn't really there as a board member, but I did go to the first home football game at Liberty, and I think the entire town of North Liberty went to that football game and were milling about. But I bring it up because I have spoken to other fellow North Libertarians. I don't know if that's what we are, but I've had numerous people say who do not have children at Liberty, either yet or never will, to say that it's good to be part of something, and that's why they went there. It's kind of a very unique thing, you know, for a town as small but not as small as it used to be in North Liberty to have a school like Liberty, and you know, the stadium is a big part of that too. But it was really nice to see the group get together. I had to drag my youngest son there kicking and screaming. He's like, but I don't even like football. And I was like, you don't understand, it's not about football. And we got there, he's like, oh, my friends are here, see ya. And 3 hours later, I saw him again. So it was important for the community, and it's, you know, you all should go if you haven't gone, because it was pretty crazy that night. Now, I don't know if it'll be like that every Friday night, but I suspect it will.
What is it?
One perk we get as board members to get into the games. So.
And you get to wear purple.
I went. I don't know if I wore purple, but it was exciting to see the stands pretty packed in there, and parking was interesting for sure, and that will always be the case. But to have all those people there on that night, it was very windy. But I stood up at the top by the press box, and there was nothing blocking the wind out there. So as houses go up around there, I hope that changes. We had a discussion with the baseball coach about the wind will be blowing consistently out in the outfield to feel if there's nothing to block the wind there. But it was exciting to see all the people that were there.
That's great. It feels good to have school back in, doesn't it? Back to school nights, having the students back here tonight, talking about their high schools. It's really good. Feels good. Anything else directors would like to highlight? Hearing none, we'll move to agenda setting. We've got a number of proposed agendas in front of us. The first is for a work session on the 18th. Again, this is going to be a continued discussion on our area attendance work. I think we'll get through tonight and see what other specific topics we want to add to that. Then we have a work session on Sunday the 23rd, which I'm really excited about. The board's going to be going through an implicit bias training course, and I think that's fantastic that we've set aside some time to do that. I think it's really important for us to be exposed to that and to learn from that. Then moving to the 25th, we have an agenda in front of us. It's a light agenda. We've got presentations on comprehensive equity update, and then an action item around hiring data.
I think that should also be in
I
presentation.
think so too, yeah. I wasn't sure about that. And then we have a work session, also on the 25th. And that will be discussing voluntary transfers, and then also any other attendance area items that get discussed either tonight or next Tuesday.
One thing I would like to add to one of those meetings, if we can, would be committee assignments.
Oh, yeah, very good.
We've done that in the past in our retreat, but with October right around the corner, like there's a policy and governance committee meeting that's probably going to be scheduled then. So
we have a lot of P&G work to do this year too. So that's a really great recommendation. And so for operations, for P&G, we need to have that conversation. Is that something we could add to the work session on the 23rd and just settle it there?
We certainly could. We could also add it to the work session on the 18th. It's a
Yeah.
relatively straightforward
Let's do it on the
process. We've
Yeah,
got
let's do it sooner.
Yeah.
We've got, and it's out on a Google Doc, so we've got all of the positions that are out there. Kim's worked really hard to get some descriptions for those so that you might know what you're volunteering for when you raise your hand. And that way, hopefully you get a chance to look at that ahead of time. It should go pretty quick.
Yep, let's do it on the 18th. I like that. Good call.
Do we have a specific meeting in mind for when we're going to visit the FMP? Because I think it's sooner than later, we need to start looking at the next several years and how we're going to put that together, because that's not going to be a quick process. And I didn't know if that was going to be just part of the annual review that we do, or if that should be separate, or...
I think it'd be a great time to start that conversation. Craig and Dwayne and I have already been having that conversation. Matt was part of a conversation we had today where we're looking kind of over the horizon on that. So getting your input will really help us out as we go through that planning process.
Along with that, Craig, I'm curious, we've talked about the Pearl tax. When would be a good time to have that on our agenda?
I think it'd be a great time for, any time for the board to place on the agenda. We did get an opinion written on what you can use Pearl for, so that would be a great update for the board to internalize and have a conversation about. And again, we did talk about that again today, and it is 13.5 cents, and but it's something that could be extraordinarily useful, especially as we deal with playgrounds and play surfacing and after-school programming and all those kinds of things that you can use Pearl for. And in this district, that 13.5 cents would be roughly $700,000. So it's a significant funding source that we've to date not had in place.
And I think, having that conversation along with FMP, that goes together pretty nicely.
These are work session agenda items, I'm assuming, and, I want to make sure that we maintain and retain enough time on attendance area work, and we've got a lot there. So maybe we do take one, though, we take one work session. We could use an entire work session on Pearl and FMP planning, kind of creating a process for how we're going to do the next generation FMP. And so maybe one of the work sessions in October is, since we're already practically done, either the first or second one in October. I mean, it's a balance of priorities here, so.
I think that's fine. I mostly just wanted to make sure that conversation didn't get lost, because it gets brought up every now and then, and we still haven't had the actual conversation about it. So October's fine. I think if we put a date on it, I think that's good.
Okay, maybe the first meeting in October, we'll
I'd
use work
suggest
session
if
time for that.
agendas don't fill up with the work sessions between then and now, we would have the opportunity to accelerate that and have that conversation sooner.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. That's good.
I would just add a real big piece to this discussion would be what our legislators decide to do with the extension of the SAVE during the January-February timeframe as well. So if they come through for us and that's extended, then you'll actually have a funding source other than a bond referendum in order to form a next phase of a facility master plan around. So that could be part of that discussion as well.
That's good. Okay, anything else that we should cover from an agenda perspective? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Why doesn't it?